retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Welcome to the interview room. I don't know about you, but on this Sunday evening, I am grateful to the Lord that Miss Sophia is back with us. And I know she's a little nervous. So when we see her, let her know how much you missed her. We're so grateful that she's with us this evening. And we're so grateful that each and every one of you, our subs, our members, our Patreon members, we cannot do this without you. And we are forever indebted to your kindness, not only thought, but your support. And Christy, you're a perfect example of that. We appreciate you so much. A big shout out to not only Miss Sophia, but Mimi J2, Maui Girl, Teresa M, and Laura Waldy. I always pronounce her last name wrong, and I end up apologizing 1,000 times. So I call her Laura, and she's amazing. And she's north of us in Canada, our friends up in Canada. We absolutely love her as well. Now, tonight, again, a special edition on part 3. But before we get there, you know what? I'm going to give a little shout out to my sweetheart. I don't know if you know, but I always pitch books over here, but this is her book. And it's called A Ballerina for Our Time. And I can tell you, this is a true story, and Karen can tell you more about it in the chat. But anyway, this is about Olga Pavlova. And, Karen used to have a online arts magazine, and it was called World Arts Today. She has since moved on from that. But she had over 1 million people that were on that. The website's down now because we moved it on to something else. But that said, this book here, she had a publishing deal, and the publishers wanted her to put a little more, shall I say, hanky-panky into it, and she held her ground. Anyway, this is the result of holding that ground, and this is a really good read. If you have granddaughters who are into ballet, I can't tell you how many ballets I've been to. I've seen more tutus, I think, than I need to see in my entire life. But it was always good to support her, and of course, it kept me balanced. As a homicide guy. To go with my sweetheart to these ballets. It made her happy. It made me happy to watch her, get into that. So I'm very proud of her. And so this is her book. It's on Amazon. I think it's like $7, almost $8 maybe. But it's a really good read, and please write a a review. We got a couple, hamburgers in there, but most of them are, cheeseburgers and fries. And so that's always important, always important. Well, to level set tonight, let's remember why we're here. I take a lot of heat sometimes for supporting families and whether or not it's a good idea to bring families on, to the interview room and or just in social media in general. And I have to tell you that, there was a recent presentation in CrimeCon where that was the very question. Should families go on social media? And, the irony to that was during that presentation on the stage was Gabby Petito's family. And I thought to myself, here is a victim's family, and they're talking about whether or not victims' families should have platforms, and they're standing right, or they're sitting right there on that platform. And so it just emboldened me to, solidify this concept of, yes, this is a safe place, as long as it's done safely. That's the key. You have to take into consideration, number one, you should have some experience working with victims and their families. And so we have had on here, we've had Dee Warner's family, we've had, Maya Miliete's family, Richard and Mary Chris, of course, Rachel's family here before anybody else. And, the list goes on and on and on and on. And I think that's a good thing because we give a platform to help them find their child and or, their family. And I don't see where as long as we don't, try to solve the crime and let the authorities do that, we're good. We're really good. So, what do you guys think about that? What's your opinion? You can put that in the chat over there. Because tonight we're going to talk about part 3 on the documents in the Madeline Soto case, in her homicide case. And, if you weren't with us and you missed parts 1 and 2, there were 896 pages of documents that have been revealed so far to the public, but there's actually 1,500 documents. And so we only have half at this point, only half. And, because of that, also, Melissa, thank you so much. Of course, Summer, and I've talked to Seth Rogers behind the scenes many times. I've not had him up here on the channel for other reasons. We've talked behind the scenes, though, at length, and I've helped him as well as many, many others. And so if we look now down the road, from the first interview I did with Candace and Don, a lot of people didn't like that. And that's okay, because now, in retrospect, you take a look at every one of those videos and you look backwards when we had Mary and Jeannie on the channel to tell their side of the story. Now it's interesting stuff in totality. So that, again, it comes down to whether or not this is your first rodeo or you pretend. I don't pretend. My goal is always to protect the victims, and Summer Wells is a victim because she's not home, and we're 3 years into that. So tonight we're going to talk about Madeline, and I have to tell you, the more and more I read about her case in terms of digging into these documents, it just tears my heart apart. It absolutely rips my heart apart. And this is why I'm wearing this pink shirt tonight, in honor of all the women who have ever been victimized by any guy who has not figured out how important you are to the world. And next week, we are going to bring a legend on, Dr. Ann Burgess, She's really excited to see you guys too, by the way, with her special Hulu program coming out next month, where the whole program is about her life and how, they brought her into the FBI as a registered nurse with an expertise in SA. And she level set the whole playing field. But quite frankly, initially, there was some, there was a lot of too much ego and too much machismo in the room. But Anne actually organized all the data that today is still, her processes are still in motion with the FBI's Behavior Science Unit. So next week's going to be a great evening. You're not going to want to miss it. Next Sunday, same time. And we're going to have an amazing evening with honoring Dr. Ann Burgess from the she's from Boston College, brought into the Behavior Science Unit, but she's an amazing human being. And we're going to have a lot of people, and the whole show is going to be about her. So as it should be, so if you missed part 1 and 2 again, please go back to the playlist, take a look at those two, about some of the documents we're going to cover here tonight. And also check out part 2 story on Madeline, called The Throwaway Girl, on our blog and our website. You can hit that link and it will take you over there. Karen wrote a piece about it, and it's really, really a good insight. And Karen coined, she's a throwaway. And it's just heartbreaking because she was. And we're going to talk really deep about that tonight. So here's a brief recap of what we've gone over so far. And let me share this with everybody. Put this back up on the stage. Can everyone see this hopefully tonight pretty well? Let me make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so a brief recap. We're up into about 422, page 422 of this document. And, I thought we had linked this. If we haven't, I'm going to make sure that we get it, we get you guys the link so you can each read this at some point if you haven't. And I'll talk to Mike Karen about how we can do that, make it available to you for sure. And I apologize if it hasn't been. I may have said that it was, and I just need to double check to make sure. So a brief recap. We've gone over, the previous 896 page document. So we're up to page 422 again. We had Stearns and Maddie's mother's statements to police about the day she went missing. We've shown the body camera, and we've all talked about, the initial contacts, and from there, what did the authorities do? And of course, we learned a tremendous amount of information from not only these documents and not only from those body cameras, but those body cameras and these documents combined now really draw the picture about what had taken place that day and the deception that had taken place as well. From Stearns, and I think the jury's still out in terms of, how much mom may or may not have known. I don't think she's involved in the homicide, but did she have, her gut feeling was that radar kicking in? When we read these documents initially, when they first got together, she was very, very, vigilant to keep this guy away. But eventually it turned into complacency. And that complacency turned into Maddie having an opportunity to be unfortunately groomed. And that grooming turned into the monster taking advantage and ultimately taking her life, which was way, way too complacent, in my opinion, from her mom. The grandmother of the family never liked this guy from the beginning. And I always tell you, and I tell my, our daughters that, look, if you got a gut feeling about a dude, okay, you're right. You are 100% right. Time to move on. Because as Karen will, used to say, boys are like buses. And she's got this whole analogy about that concept. But, here, friends and school teachers talk about Maddie struggling in school, she being a D student, and how Maddie's mom said she would disown her at 18. So this young girl was having all of these clues, projected in her public persona. But in the secret life, she was terrified because of this gentleman. Well, I'm not even going to call him a gentleman, this animal. And so she did not have the coping skills or the maturity internally to figure out, how she deals with this. And who does at that age? Nobody. And so her whole life really was a throwaway. And so I hope you're going to enjoy the write-up because Karen honors her in that story. So she wanted to run away and live in the woods when she was 18. Remember, we talked about that. And when we heard about her home life and what was taking place in that apartment building, that she was, basically groomed 1,000% again, and that Stearns had free run. And evident of the fact that they found over 1,700 highly disturbing images of him and her, and some as young as when she was 8 years old. 8 years old. Just horrible. So she started thinking about running away at 13, and then ultimately she said if she had an opportunity, she would run to the woods, and then add that on top of her mother saying, well, at 18, I'm going to kick you out anyway. And she may even kick her out before that. That was the mentality that was taking place in this young lady's life. Again, we left off at page 422. So tonight we're going to pick it up from that point. And so this is page 422 that's showing up here. And you know how I like to go through these documents meticulously, because I think they not only teach us a lot, but we also get the facts correct. So, if we think about this as a whole, this document here was the arrest warrant, and the similarities to this one. This is the kind of thing that went into the. But I keep getting these emails and text messages. Sorry. I'm going to put that over there. If you hear a buzz, I'm going to ignore it. This is the kind of document that went into the system at NCIC, the National Crime Information Center. And this is the basically what we would call this a contact warrant. So meaning if anybody comes into contact with this individual, this warrant would have been in the system. And as you can see, what it does is it breaks down the case agency. There's no court number yet because at the time this document was created, it had not been assigned a court case. But it gives all the agency information, what the suspect is looking or is wanted for. In this case, it was batteries, S battery, possession material, performance with a child. I mean, this is one sick puppy. Let's just admit it, right? I mean, anybody that goes this far, with a child, I have very little tolerance for. Very little tolerance. This is not a disease. This is a created behavior that multiplies itself over years and years and years and years. And though we register a couple things in this country. We register guns, we register cars, sometimes parolees in relationship to what their threat level is, to the community. And then, of course, we register to RSOs. Okay. Why do we register human beings is the question. Oh, we register dogs too, and animals, right? We put a chip in them in case they get lost or in case they bite somebody. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Cars are registered in case they're stolen and or involved in accidents, that kind of thing, and vehicles. But we also register humans. And the only people that, once they're arrested and put into the system, they go through a variety of programs. And I think one day I'll have Dr. Larry Simons on again. If you go back to some of my early stuff, I had Larry on, and he, at the time, when I did the interview with him, and he's also a member of the Cold Case Foundation, Dr. Larry was in a Tuscadero, and he was running the group therapy for RSOs. And I don't know if you just type in a Tuscadero and you'll know what I'm talking about up there in Northern California. But Dr. Larry was running the group. And, we've had so many conversations, and I asked him, and by the way, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant, like Dr. Procado. And I asked him, I said, dude, do you think these guys can ever be fixed? And he looked over at me and he goes, seriously? I was like, yeah, I'm asking her not, this, valuable question. He goes, no. He said, what they can do is they can learn how to control potentially the impulse. He says, think of it this way. He said, if you had an addiction problem, not this type, but let's say alcohol, drugs, which, by the way, you can control, you can fix, and you can push it out of your life. Okay? Those problems, but not this problem. He said, just think of every time you walk into a store and you see a victim of your age group, i.e. your attraction and your victimology. He said, that's going to send you into a sit spin. He says, and that's why these problems are so difficult. And it made sense. It made sense to me. I've run into these guys like you, we've all seen them in our communities, and we've run, names. And, when the first thing a realtor does when you buy a house is hopefully, run the neighborhood. The first thing you should do is run that neighborhood and find out where things are. And so Dr. Larry Simons, he said, very difficult, very difficult. Okay, so this next document is obviously from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And what this is, it's a case tracking for evidence. And you'll see the investigating agency. So everything is barcoded. And here they have fingerprints, major case prints from the suspect as well as from the vehicle. And these are all the things that they collected in number 2, where, in volume 2 that we ran here, that we saw where they pulled these prints and that type of stuff. Buccal swabs from their guy, DNA cards, fingernail clippings, probably from the victim. And then we get down here, swabs from various areas of the victim and clippings. Hopefully, I know she probably fought, but hopefully they got her. They've got him in totality. It's an assault turned into a homicide. You can see here, and there's 2 case numbers, one for the SA and one for the homicide. And let's see here. 7 latent prints were collected from the car Mr. Stearns used to transport blank body to the dump site. So they've got fingerprints from there. Now we get into the Regional Operations Center. This is basically it's information that, hold, and you see this barcode here. Everything will correlate to every one of these exhibit numbers. Buccal swabs, DNA cards, fingerprint cards, neck swabs, etc., from both the victim and the suspect. Let's see here. Is expected to be a donor to item number 4. We don't need to read that one, but they went up and down on this guy. Using a color change test, item 9 gave chemical indication for the presence of blood. So right hand swab represents, it looks like they got blood on him. Good for them. Item 9. Awesome. So what they did is they swabbed his right hand, and they got a positive presence of blood. Very cool. Also, item 10 in his left hand, they got a positive presence of blood. Outstanding. Outstanding. Let's see here. Or obtained from 10 due to the limited nature of these results, the data is not interpretable. So they also looks like they may have some mixture here, but they're not. They can't call it for sure because they're out in the field and it's basically just off of swabs. So they have to send it to the lab. These are swabs from various areas of the victim. We don't need to go through that. They're very sensitive and personal in nature. The DNA profiles obtained from items 3 and 5 have been entered into CODIS. So let's go back up to 3 and 5. 3 and 5 buccal swab represents from Stephen Stearns, and a DNA card. I'm assuming it's going to be from him as well. Let's see here. PCR base STR DNA analysis was performed on all these items and considered items number 6, etc. They broke it down into fluids, and they were able to get a hit. Okay, so now we get into clothing and items where it was taken from and the location. A female black short with white stripe. Black sands and other items, a purple Apple iPhone in clear case with a cherry design. And these are all the evidence barcodes, i.e. each piece is put into the evidence facility, and all they do is scan this barcode and it tells them where it's at and they can go pick it up. Not as sophisticated as Amazon, but these guys are ahead of the game. One pink female undergarment, a set of swabs from passenger door, a rag from the passenger's floor, pocket knife, top compartment center console, white rope from the trunk, set of swabs from the center console. So these are the items that they took in at the lab. That's what this is over here where it says forensics. Okay, so these are everything is correlating from the evidence collection at the car. Okay, so all they're doing is telling us all the stuff made it to the lab. That's what these reports are for. And if you're also just joining us, whenever you watch a court case or anything like that, you may hear what they call a Bates number. Okay? And over here, 000543 at the bottom, that's your Bates number. So whenever you're watching a court trial and the defense and the prosecution, say, Your Honor, we're referring to Bates 000543. That's what this is down here. They don't refer to the report. They refer to the Bates number on that report. And if you'll notice, see, this one's 544. So whenever you're watching these trials, like, the Karen Reed thing or something to that effect, and you hear the prosecution and defense talk about Bates numbers, that's what this is right here on this report. So these are the other items that were taken from the house. And again, what a sad situation. She's essentially has a partition in the living room, and that's her, area. So in one of Stern's videos, he has this video of her and him when she was 8 years old on the bed, and he forces her to do some things and then tells her if she doesn't do it, that she can't play with her phone. And, this is one of the things that we always have to keep in mind about these groomers and these individuals. They are very skilled at manipulating children, but they're very awkward trying to manipulate people like us, all of us. And if we see that behavior very clearly in the way, he wraps his body, in the way he's, not looking at the officers while talking. And if he is looking, he's more interested in what they're thinking versus giving, the totality of the information that evening. So, and on page 343, we have information that gives us an indication of when she was 11, where she slept. And this is where they pulled out, 1,700 photos. And then, of course, what we're looking at here. And then we get down to page 430, 437. These are the list of the items taken from the home. That's what these are. Page 439 that we're getting here. This will be the clothing that Maddie wore. We're coming up here, including her undergarments. This is all the items they took out of the house again. And here we're in page 439, the mattress, white purple sheet, dinosaur blanket, purple comforter, gray shirt, etc. Our undergarments. And then we get over here into 443. Let me jump to that one. This one was pretty interesting, actually. So there was a trash bag collected at 4978 McLeod Road. That is the county dump site. So they went to the dump and they got these items, the white crock. So it looks like the dumpster had been dumped that morning. And this is where they recovered them, at the dump. So good work again by them. It looks like they got the backpack and 2 swabs from the backpack on Colonial Drive. But up here, they got the 1 white crock and 1 trash bag out of the dump. So the trash pickup had already been accomplished. This one here is from the house, 2 zippered tags on the bags. They took, DNA from that. And then we jump back here on, from the items collected at the dump. There was a tire. There was the laptop and charger and a backpack. So that's interesting stuff. So thank goodness they were able to get it, that it didn't get pushed into the pile. And, we talk about, and I think they did this in the Seth Rogers or Sebastian Rogers case, where, the authorities went to the dump. And one of the things that's really fascinating, there's a lot of engineering that goes on at these places. They just don't. I've done many, searches at dumps before in the past. And what happens is everything is layered into, the ground, but it's layered by sometimes the county and or a geographic region within that county. So they can go back and say, okay, at this longitude, latitude, this is the stuff from, Tucson, Arizona, and this neighborhood. And it was dropped by this truck at this time. And so it should be in this area. And so it's a dig. It's an archaeological dig to go back into there and start removing stuff, reverse engineering it and trying to get to it. They're very methodical. They're like looking for a needle in a haystack. It is very difficult to try to find this stuff. And I would submit to you at this point, not knowing 100%, but it looks like they got this stuff before it got buried into the landfill. Thank goodness. Then, of course, the information from the car, they end up getting 30 latent fingerprint cards from both the victim and the suspect in this thing. All right, everybody with me so far? And thank you so much for your kindness. And I see we've got some new members. Thank you. I'm going to go through these real quick. Thank you so much. And if you're new to our channel, if you have some questions, I'll answer them towards the end. Those of you, who've been with me for quite some time, we'll dive into the documents. We'll share it together in the chat in terms of conversation. But then, I'll try to jump into your questions as we go along. So now here we go into page 444 on, and what we're going to do here is we're going to see many pages of initial cell phone dump. Now, the reason I say initial, this is what the defense right now in the Brian Kohberger case is arguing about. Okay, these are the initial dump triangulations. Remember, cell towers have they have three sides, and if a phone is coming towards it, it may hit the tower that's in front of it, or it could hit the tower behind it. Okay. And that's where you get looks like a little B-1 bomber here. Okay. In that area where the arch is where they believe the phone is coming in to that particular tower. And you'll see the other two towers over here to the left. Okay. This would have been the area where the other phone, as he's passing down that road. So if he's coming from the east and he's traveling west, his phone hits in this arch here, okay, into this tower. But then as he continues west, and if we look at this big arch here, okay, his phone is pinging within that arch. Now, why is this important? Because down here you see working copy. And you heard recently in the Brian Kohberger case, the detective from Moscow PD had testified, well, yeah, but you're asking me about working, copy information. It's not solidified yet. And that's why they brought in the guy, Ray Tsai from ZX to come in and just critique these. And this is why it's important to remember, even he said, well, I don't have all the data yet. Okay, but the data that I'm seeing, and he gave his professional opinion on that. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I mean, right now, the testimony of this could be, well, it could be the one to the right, to the east. It could be the one to the west. And you know what? He could be as far over as the one in the upper left-hand corner up here, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why you have to be very careful. And one of the things that I hope that other YouTube true crimers are listening to, if they don't understand the interpretation of these documents, then they shouldn't just go out there and throw that information into the public, because, at that point, you're kind of out of your league, talking about it. Okay? I can't testify as an expert on phone pings and all this other stuff. I understand the principle because I spent 13 years in homicide. Okay? And I've seen thousands of these things. Okay? But you need other experts, people that are, like Cy and others. Okay. So if you have to look at this as like a pie and, like a cake. And if you look at the ingredients that are put into that cake, if you just look at the eggs, okay, and not the powder to make the cake, okay, and not the frosting, well, that's why you're going to get variances in terms of testimony. And that's what this is all about. These are, quote, working copies. Okay, working copies. And this is why it's really important. So you see this arch here. This is where the cell tower is located, and which would be the strongest signal right here. This is where the strongest signal would be. But it can go out as far as all of this over here. All this over here. So if he's coming through here, driving on this road, and his phone pings to this particular tower, this is, if we go back to this one, we hear testimony in Koberger and said, well, yeah, but he was down here by the park. Okay. Because he got a ping there too. Well, that ping could have been as he's coming through this arch here and he makes it right here. And it could have either pinged here or it could have pinged down here. Okay. So that's why you need to be a little more granular with these types of phone records. And this is a perfect example of that in this case. They're saying he's within this geographic marking here for these phone tower pings. Okay, coming and going potentially. They can't tell you what direction of travel it is yet. Okay, they can get that off of the car, but they can't get it off of the cell phone tower information. And we saw evidence of that in the Murdoch case. And so what happens? Well, they have a box. They call it the box. And the FBI gets on that box and they drive this route based on the telemetric data that they get out of the suspect's car. And they follow the same route. And now they can start pinning this down closer and closer and closer to, if we look at, the Daybell case, Chad's backyard. And they can see Alex's phone moving right up to the point where it's at the doggone fire pit. Okay. And that's the kind of, digging into it. And that's where companies like Gladiator come in, which is a different level than ZX. Gladiator is the next level. Okay. This is ZX information. This would be very consistent with them. Gladiator is going to tell you, no, it's not down here, even though it shows it could be down there. It's actually right over here. Okay. Boom. And that is important information to remember when we're watching true crime or any kind of crime, true crime channel. If they don't understand the fundamentals of this, then, we'd all be just chasing rabbit holes, as they say. Okay. And so always remember that. And this is why it's important to look to the left-hand corner, just like it says, and says, no, these are working copies of where that phone been. And you see the different discolorations. So that means, various different things. I mean, it could mean he came back multiple times. It could mean he passed through this multiple times. But he's in this geographic arch here. He's within this arch here because this is the strongest signal, and he may have made it out to here as well. And you see the variances of that. See how they're narrowing it down? They're narrowing it down even further. You can see it, and they're starting to move into where the strongest signal was coming for that phone. and where that phone was pinging. Okay. But now a defense expert would come in and say, well, yeah, the phone's pinging over here, but it's a possibility it could ping over here too, or in the west of that. Okay. And that's smoke and mirrors, and that's what Ann Taylor's doing. Okay. And that's her job. That's her job. But if you go look up Gladiator Forensics, that is an FBI program. You can just get, the surface. You can't get in. Okay. You can't see the totality of that tool. It's an amazing tool. And it also saves a lot of people from terrorist events. So that's why you can't get in to see it. But it takes this as one layer and it goes, well, okay, but we're down here. And one interesting thing in the Rachel Marin case that we heard recently, the sheriff said when he put the sack on SAI, the FBI special agent in charge, listen real carefully to what the sack said. He said, we helped them with the genetic IgG and genetic genealogy, and we helped them locate the suspect. Okay, that was in the press conference, by the way, and some people heard it and they went, "Oh, crud." Okay, others, no, you can't get the information on a FOIA on. This is a great question on Gladiator study. Now, because a lot of that, I'm going to say no, because they don't release all of that technology because it's a national security issue. I can tell you from what I know on that piece. And it was developed by an employee of the FBI years and years ago, long before Comey and all that problem. So it's been in play for quite some time. This is, again, though, you can really see where they're narrowing down where this phone was and how it was moving. And so what they're doing is they're creating a target zone, as you can tell. Okay. But the defense will argue, no, he was over here, east of that target zone. And then they'll argue, no, he was west of that target zone. And the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that, no, he was right here in this target zone. And that's why these other layers of experience come in with these other tools. And you can see they're even, narrowing it down further and further. So they're putting him in the ballpark here or whatever, and then up here is they also have some LPR data and camera data up here on the upper left-hand corner. They've got it blacked out, but you see this is where his vehicle was seen too. So they're correlating his phone and his vehicle to a geographic location. Sound familiar? That sound familiar? Okay. Moscow, BK. And you can see where they're really narrowing this down up here. They also have, his vehicle. That one is 407256. It's the same photograph that they put up here, but you can't see it. They've blacked it out. And now they've got vehicle sightings. I don't know what the red is. Maybe I don't know if it's her house. I don't know what these are here. They blacked them out right now, so I'm not going to guess in any way, shape, or form. But you'll notice here, they really narrowed that phone down. So these are pings. You can see where it's moving now. It's getting into tower after tower. And, these cell phone companies, they're constantly putting new towers in, or they're upgrading, their tower capabilities from, 3G, 4G, 5G. And so they produce these lists, and most of the time they are not available to the public where all these cell towers are. Okay. I know AT&T is very protective of their installation towers. And some of that, believe it or not, again, it goes to, national security issues around the country. They don't want, the people knowing, the bad guys knowing where the towers are. You'll notice in some environmental areas, they look like trees, they look like cactuses. I mean, there's all kinds of things that take place. And so when you start getting information like this, it could be that the CAS team, the cellular analysis, team from the FBI, they may have driven the box down here. Okay, but I'm going to say no initially because it was too early in the investigation. They send it off to the Quantico and or the field office right there in Orlando, and they may have gotten somebody out there from the CAS team to narrow this information down. So now what we know and what we're learning is his phone is on the map February 26th, early in the morning, the day Maddie goes missing. And it seems that to show that she possibly her life could have been taken in the home. I don't know if we have any confirmation of that yet. It is a possibility. I don't know for sure. Okay. And now they're also on we're going to jump over here. You'll see all of this phone data. This is really good stuff. Okay, so now we have a house. We have a ping. We have a ping over here. We have pings down here. I'm assuming this is hers, but I don't know. I don't want to say it's the green or the red. They've blocked that out. So you can see where the pinging, it is very strong on this side within this arch. This I'll call it the B-1 bomber. Okay. And so he could be moving, in a southwesterly direction and or a northeasterly direction. Either one of those directions would cause this type of effect. Okay. We have another phone over here. That's why the different color. This could be the victims. This could be the suspects or vice versa. I don't know yet. We don't have enough data. But you can really see how they got into the nitty-gritty here with this technology. And there's a couple, remember, they can download the phone information. It's Celebrite from the UFED, and then the Celebrite has some, software that they can put it into. But there are also a couple other companies that do this. One of them is called GeoTime, and GeoTime creates this type of working copy, product. And again, that poor officer during the Brian Koberger thing, was put up on the stand and said, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Because he told them clearly, well, that's just a working copy. That's this was to get us into the ballpark with this suspect. And that's exactly what we're seeing here with Maddie. These investigators did an outstanding job nailing it down here in the Madeline Soto case for sure. I commend them personally. Did they make some mistakes? I'm sure of it as well. Being fair, right? But when they're, looking for her that day, this is the type of information that they start seeing. You really start seeing this phone moving very carefully here. You see it moving. when you understand the fundamentals of this, right, guys? I mean, it's really not that difficult once you start looking at this now and going, oh, I can see that. It looks like it's going north. Because you can see if the phone is down here and it's pinging here, okay, then if it's still moving and now it pings on this tower, still moving, pings on this tower, goes past this tower, but pings, comes up to this tower, right? And ping, ping, right? It's still moving. And as he's coming up around this way potentially, okay, boom, it hits down here to the bottom. And you can really see the progression of this. This is a very strong signal here, within this one. So it's kind of cool. Everybody catching this? I'm assuming you are, right? Let me go see if there's we got anything up in here. Everybody still with me on this? We're so grateful that you're here. Thank you. Thank you, Arkansas. And by the way, though, what a horrible event that took place in Arkansas the other day. Oh my gosh. And another active shooter today, 10 more people shot in Ohio. Holy cow. Thank you so much, Eltina. You're very kind. I mean, what is going on? What is going on? Craziness. Okay, so all of this is gold, just gold. And, there are 300 pages of gold. Here, I'm going to get through these because I want to get up to page 800. So you can see where they're really pinning him down. And, I don't know about you, but, this is the kind of stuff when, we'd be sitting there and, when this technology was coming into play, they'd walk in and they'd drop these reports on your desk. And, you'd be out in the field and you come back and this stuff would be sitting there and you go, wow, man, this is great stuff. Then, of course, you got to call somebody. Hey, come here, come help me, make sense of this. Teach me on what I'm seeing here. Okay, what's going on? Okay. You start seeing stuff like this and say, well, these outer bands are the strong. This is your ping tower points, because it's a triangulation, and these things can ping from three sides, but the majority of the strength of this ping is coming from this side over here on the east, et cetera, and the same here to the west of this particular tower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it really starts to break down and paint a picture as to where and how that phone was moving. Now, who it was moving with as an investigator, you don't know that yet. You presume it's with the suspect, Stearns, okay? But you don't know that yet in totality. You've got a phone number, which is right up here, okay? And it comes back to Stearns. But, of course, until you get those records from the phone company, you have to maintain, an open mind. Okay, so between 8:44 and 8:59, this is where the phone was. Look how strong this is. So in the evening at 8:44 and 8:59, that phone is really, really in this geographic region here. That's some, that, as we used to say, Lucy, you have some explaining. Okay. Stearns has to do some explaining on this. And it's great when you have this, especially when you go into an interview with this guy and you put it on the table and say, hey, can you tell me about what's going on here, buddy? You say you were over here at this McDonald's, but unfortunately I'm seeing you in this geographic region here. So, can you help me out here? And then the phone moves at 10:06. It starts to ping down here, so it looks like there's a back road. It gets real strong down here. And then you can correlate these locations, obviously, to the body dump site / maybe the dump, maybe the trash cans, maybe McDonald's, all of that stuff, right? This looks like it's going to be a rule out there, and this may be where the body could have been. All right, so let's keep moving. And we're at 10:13 in the evening. It's not as strong. It's down here now. That's what they're showing here. Now, the defense will have you believe, no, it's still up here. Okay, well, those other programs are going to nail this down here. And that's their job. You can't fault them in any way, shape, or form. Defense attorneys are great people. Love them. And many, many friends. And I've done defense work myself. So, they're doing their job. The Constitution requires it. But this evening, they're looking for this little girl, and this is the type of information they're trying to dig up. That day, February 25th at 10:18 in the evening. Okay, so I want to go down here. So this is gold. I will call this gold, and I'm still only in the 600 working here. And this is probably, again, an LPR of some sort, license plate reader, information that they've blocked out. They've got longitude and latitude where they see a car. Now they're getting nitty gritty here. They're showing everybody that it's westbound on Thacker. There's the car again. I don't know what this could be. Maybe it's I don't know what it could be. Here they're showing a car eastbound. They're showing a car northbound. And so it's starting to move. And all these are just breadcrumbs, right? This is what we used to call them, just breadcrumbs. This isn't the car, stop. No, the car's moving. Okay, and this is just a direction of travel. Now, that is one of the things that we have to remember is he has this poor little girl deceased in his car. And all of this is going to be very important information because he's driving around, and it looks like he's driving around potentially looking for a place to dump her. And that's what we call a body dump. But this guy has her in that car for hours. Because you see at 0938, 0931, or 39, this is where that car is moving. And by this time, she's been deceased. 9:44 in the morning, 9:48, car's moving. Southbound, Central Florida Parkway. 9:50 in the morning, car's still moving. 9:52, 9:54, 9:57, 9:59. So it's in 2-minute increments. 10:02, car still moving. 10:03, southbound on Town Center Boulevard. Now, this guy has her in the trunk by this point. I mean, think of the math on that in terms of the sickness of now they get into a target area at 10:15. $10:46. Maybe he left her phone at home, and that's what you're getting a ping here. We don't know what this red house means. I'm assuming it's their house, but we don't know if this is her phone pinging at that house. They've blacked that out. But over here, they're very interested in this area here at 10:50 in the morning. $11:02. Now, what's interesting about this is it looks like that phone could have moved at 11:03. You see how they're getting the ping in this arch here? It's in this geographic region potentially. And you start seeing it again start to build at 11:03 in the morning. Didn't he go back to the apartment complex? If I remember right. And didn't he call mom at like 10 o'clock in the morning? So he may have already dumped her by then. And maybe they found her phone. Maybe mom, maybe the cousins, remember, they had her phone. So they could be moving this device. This device could be moving. And we kind of see this thing moving up here again. Just here's the vape shop. So this is going to be him. Went to the vape shop, but her phone is moving too down here. So that's interesting. Here's the vape shop right here. And look at this, look at the strength of the signal at that vape shop. So this phone is pinging on two towers, one here and one up here. Not as strong on this band as strong as this band to this tower. And then you see both of them overlaid here. $11:30. That phone is still up there. All right, everybody's got this one. So let me go down here. The phone information here is going to be critical. And it's going to have to be interpreted, obviously, at another level because there's other reports that we just haven't seen yet. That again, I'm going to submit to you. We'll do a deeper dive into this in terms of in a granular level. Okay, and that's where the CAST team comes in, and that's where again these other programs come in to really, go a little bit deeper. So this is the initial, I would submit to you, this is the working copy that they were talking about at BK's case. This is the type of document that you're seeing or that they're talking about. And of course, the public can't see it. All you have to do is listen to the experts talk about it. And this is why it was important to listen to, Ray Sai when he said, look, I don't have all the data. Okay? I'm only looking at, some of the data, where the positioning of the cell towers are, and those things can change. They can constantly change. Sometimes they can change in a week. And that information is presented, back out to law enforcement agencies across, primarily to the CAST team. And so that's what he was talking about. And eastbound 192, now we see again, this is, getting granular here with the car, how it's moving, where it came from, the geographic region. They have him way over here, very strong hit, and then we start seeing the phone leaving. So if this is where the dump site is or the house, either one, he's on the move. You can see it keeps progressing west. Or excuse me, east. All right. I got to get up to page 868. I'm in the 700, so I got 100 pages. I'll tell you what, they got 100. They almost got 200 pages of phone data on this guy, add a piece of toast to the chat. They have pinned him down. They have pinned him down. I don't want to go so fast that it causes an imbalance with some folks in here in terms of if they're looking at this. Here, let me pull this out real fast. Let me stroll through this so you don't have to watch it. I apologize for that. Be sensitive to you. Yeah, this one here is pretty cool. They've really nailed him into this geographic region right here. Okay, I want to get up to the page 800. We're at 775. You can hear Buddy in the background. Is everybody having a great evening on this Sunday evening, I hope? It's so great to see Miss Sophia back in the chat, isn't it, everyone? Let's give her some love. We're so excited to have her back with all of our mods. And of course, you guys all know that we have the greatest mods, in my opinion. Not that I'm biased, but on YouTube, Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Teresa M, Mimi J2, and Laura. And we have the greatest subs. Each and every one of you, that's all we ever ask, is that you just sub. And if you haven't put your DNA on that subscribe, we would ask that you would do that and then share this with all of your friends and your social media networks. Okay, I'm getting up here. Sorry, guys. I thought it'd make it a little easier to take it off the screen for you. $896 pages. And by the way, there are another 700 pages or thereabouts that have not been released. Okay. So this sheet here, this is a canvas sheet, is what it's called. And all they did was, talk to various people. I don't want to put any names up, but it's basically all the different buildings, who they talked to, what did they do? They left business cards. Who did they communicate with? And here now they hit the business records, various different, folks. This is a past incident report. It was a DV. He was a person of summary here. He was a suspect in a DV. I don't know who the victim was, but he was involved in domestic violence. This is an incident report that's attached. That's interesting. They also recovered a black wallet with a chain in the name of Natalia containing U.S. currency, miscellaneous cards, and different names on it. So that leaves open the door for, are there other people, other children? You just don't have 1,700 pictures on your phone without the potential of, a lot of kids. This one here is another incident report. This one here, let me read what the deal is, but there's one, two, three, that could be witnesses, 2 witnesses. Okay, this may be another report, guys, of another incident that he's involved in. Interesting. And he was born in Illinois, so I would submit to you that there's going to be some information up there as well. If that's where his home state is and that's where he grew up, there's going to be information up there. So in this supplemental, this deputy here talks about contact made. Let me see. I forget what this one was. I think it. And by the way, that information, the black wallet and stuff, was pulled out of his room. Okay, was pulled out of his room. But it looks like he also had other incidents that they attached to this. And this is where they kind of pin him down. 0800 on the 26th, ready for school. This was the story. Domestic crimes as on-call DV. I was notified of this incident. Being briefed about the information required further. Blah, blah, blah. This was about mom being potentially a victim of DV. Yeah, he moved out of the home because he was offered a job by his father, but that job fell through, and he was trying to move back in. Typically, when Stefan visited, he would stay for a few days. That's what this report's going to tell us. And however, at this time, he was planning to stay for a week. And so this could be a trigger for him that could have set off the homicide. Remember, you always want to look for that triggering event. What was it? And he was offered a job by his dad. That job fell through. So immediately he's going to take it out on something or somebody. And, the sad part of this is Maddie became his target. And then she may have said something, because she's at that age now where she's, 13, and she is, just suffering immensely, mentally, physically, emotionally. She's going through this process, and he flips out. It's just horrible. Just horrible. And then, so Stefan arrives early Saturday, February 24th in the morning, or the morning of February 25th. However, the mom didn't remember exactly when, and this is what she tells the police. She also affirms that he, in fact, was that Stephen, in fact, was not home when she awoke at 9 o'clock in the morning. On the 26th, she called him multiple times, and that he returned her call at approximately 10 a.m. and informed her he accidentally left his phone at home. He returns at 11:15 a.m., at which time Stefan was at the home with her as well. And so the two of them were home at 11:15, and this is when the story comes up about dropping her off at the school, etc. But none of that was true, according to the police report, because the police reported, while speaking, I noted the mom referred to Maddie using the past tense several times when she mentioned her, and that's on page 873. So let me go to 873. Okay, let's see here. She says she was hypervigilant of him. Let's see here. They transported her down to the PD. They completed a second interview with the purposes of clarifying information, which was collected throughout the course of the day. I presented blank a still photograph from the video, which was captured the camera at the church, yada, yada. And he's able to recognize the car in the video, stated she did not recognize the vehicle. However, the individual seen may possibly have been blank, as the individual does not appear to be wearing a light-colored top or dark-colored bottoms. However, no further identifying features were seen. scene, also reaffirming her account of earlier events. So they wanted to, pin her down, pin mom down. The comment may have stemmed from blank talking to blank about the possibility of World War III with the current situation in the Middle East in the end weeks prior to this incident. I don't know what they're referring to on that personally. But here, while speaking, they noted that mom was speaking in the past tense several times when she mentioned Maddie. The detective inquired whether or not it was normal to allow Stefan to sleep in the same room unsupervised. She replied, this was not uncommon. It was not uncommon practice. Okay. However, she did not have any suspicion that anything inappropriate would occur between the two, because she stated, I'm very hyper vigilant around Stefan. However, as the years have gone by, she did admit to allowing him to be alone with her because, quote, they got along. I'll leave that right there. All right. And then on 874, page 874, we've got Stefan could not recall any events over the weekend which might have encouraged blank to run away because she was so happy, specifically after her birthday party. And he says they were extremely happy together. Extremely happy together. And that he could not understand why she would want to run away because of that happiness together. And on the night of Sunday, February 25th, he slept in the guest bedroom upstairs, or she slept in the guest bedroom upstairs with Stefan at approximately 2300, which is 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Stefan saw her in the bedroom as he was getting ready to leave. Stefan said he arrived at the drop-off location taking her, and she asked him to wait there with her due to how early they had arrived. And this is all the stupid story about, we were going to, I made her a Danish and then we were going to go to McDonald's. It was her idea. We got an early start. Remember all that, guys, in video number 1. And then, he played it off like this is all Maddie's idea, Very typical, right? I think we can all agree on that. Extremely typical. Okay? And it's, some other dude. It's never their fault. It's some other dude. It's, I took pictures of a red truck, i.e. Don Wells, that kind of stuff. It's just like, seriously, okay. And so in this particular situation, he's given this whole story, and then he says, she would become agitated due to her hormones at time. You understand. And also she was diagnosed with ADHD. And so that means she tended to be forgetful at times. However, on the morning of the incident, she forgot her phone at home in her bedroom, which was, quite not uncommon, quote unquote. Okay. And of course, it's always, the 12, 13-year-old's, fault, right? And one of the ways we were trained to interview these individuals is, if they're essaying, children, and you start out with this concept of, what were they wearing? And then you ask them, if they hadn't worn that bathing suit, hypothetically, would that have tempted you? And of course, it's always the child's fault for wearing that bathing suit, right? And you take them down that path and let them tell you all about it. And I had one case years ago. This guy, he used to sit at the at the local, like the YMCA and the outdoor pool area. And what he would do is he would sit in with his feet in the water in the deep end. Okay. And This guy, by the way, had molested hundreds and hundreds of children. And he was so successful at it, he would sit in the deep end with his feet in the water in the summertime in the pools. And by the way, moms and dads, grandmas, grandpas, okay, if you see some knucklehead doing that and you see a small child, okay, walk over and just take a look, okay? Because what this guy would do is, little kids, as always, right? What's the first thing they do if they are getting brave, right? They're going to go and they're going to hold the edge and they're going to go around that pool, okay? Well, he would wait for the kids to get to him, and he's a barrier to entry now to go around. So what would he do? He would take the children, reach underneath the water, you do the math, and then he'd move them over and place them next to him. Okay? And then the kid would keep moving on. And the moms would be like, thank you, thank you. Okay? And he loved that. He loved it. Okay? But what he was doing is he's inappropriately touching those children under the water. Okay? And nobody saw it, nobody caught on until he was arrested years later. So these are the kind of sick puppies that are out there, and this is how they process this stuff. Okay? So we always have to be vigilant with our grandchildren and our children to make sure that if it don't look right, DLR, right? Follow your gut, mom. Follow your guts. You're right. Okay? If it doesn't look right, you're correct. Okay? And follow that. So it goes on, page 875, where we get into Maddie's grandmother. I love Maddie's grandmother as well. Okay? Maddie's grandmother tells the world, I don't like that guy. I've never liked him. And the last time, I saw Maddie was the night on the February 25th at her home. She was still celebrating her birthday party. And when she woke up in the morning at her grandparents', because she had spent the night over there, and they left the home between 7:30 and 7:45, and grandma took her home, on the 26th, the morning of the 26th, and grandma says, my gut was, there's something wrong with this guy. He's trying to come back in, et cetera, et cetera. And so grandma was right. And unfortunately, she was also stuck that she could not prevent. And it's not her fault. It's not her fault. Can you imagine what she's going through right now in terms of the weight of what's going on with her? And grandma tells the police on page 874, about a year ago, there was an incident where Maddie was upset due to having an argument with mom, which is adolescent behavior, right? That's what teenagers do. Okay? And that she called grandma. She reached out, and we have 5 grandchildren, and I can tell you that I've gotten, both Karen and I have gotten phone calls from our granddaughter. Grandpa, can I talk to you for a minute? Absolutely, honey. What's going on? And small stuff, right? Small stuff, but it's big stuff in their world. It's huge stuff sometimes. And we work them through it. That's what our role is. And, at that time, she had been in a big fight, a big fight with, mom. And she'd been walking around the neighborhood, and she, calls grandma, and grandma, talks her down and says, it's okay. It's going to be all right. Go back into the house, go back to mom. You two, work it out, patch it up. And, I think this has kind of given us also another indication into what's going on there, the dynamics between mom and daughter, and, how this individual was able to, move his way into, the family dynamics here. Okay. The family dynamics. I think, what do you guys think of the first body camera where you see the cops there and you see all the family and some of the cousins, and there's one gal behind the glass, That doesn't even come out. But oh my gosh, if talk about a stare down. When you get a chance, go watch that video again. It's on one of the early things that we did. Man, oh man, she was just like, laser beam onto this guy. And grandma had a sense of it, and I think other people, the cousins, etc. But what was fascinating about that is even when the cops are standing there talking to mom on this video, and I pointed it out that he is in the background talking to somebody else and pointing out all the various places around McDonald's and where he dropped her off, etc. And man, oh man, did he look just like a Disney, employee. Right here, let me help you. Okay, where you need to get to Pirates of the Caribbean? Yeah, you got to go over here. You go over here. I mean, talk about, just in the mold or in the moment. Okay? Very, very deceptive. Very deceptive. Extremely deceptive. So we get into page 876. Mom had rented a room to another woman and a 15-year-old boy, which I think Dr. Picato would also talk about. That kid could have been a potential target as well. Maybe that's one of the reasons he was trying to get back into the house. That is just, of course, pure speculation, but at the same time, thinking in an investigative analysis way, if there was a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old in the house, and you have somebody that is this deviant, it is not out of the realm of possibility that individual could have been on the target list at some point. And he may have been trying to move and position themselves, because this roommate comes in and rents a room in the house, and now it's her son and her. This is a total separate person, Maddie, her mom, etc. But she didn't have any concerns of what Stefan projected. So now we get into page 876 a little bit deeper. Let me go right here. And we talk about, school, right? What the teachers were seeing. Her science teacher says that she was typically quiet, reserved. She often lost focus. She frequently states she was not feeling well and had to go to the school nurse often. She stated this year in third period her science class, but was recently moved into sixth period science due to issues in another class she was having. Although her grades have always been D's and F's since moving into the new period at the beginning of the year. So she went from, third period to sixth period, i.e. later in the day, and her grades dropped to D's and F's. Since moving into the new period at the beginning of the year, Maddie has only turned in one of two assignments. So she started to drift. She was frequently withdrawn and quiet, but the teacher never attributed any of her behavior to being sad or depressed. So this young lady had a way of projecting, maybe not an emotional response to people around her. I don't know. We're going to have to, I see Dr. Gary's in the chat here. I'd be interested in his take on that, how she was able to do that. But anyway, so she's withdrawn, etc. Attribute any of her behavior to being sad or depressed, but rather explain that Maddie is a student who struggles with learning and is slightly withdrawn. So she attributed that pulling back out of social environments around her peers to this idea of she was struggling with learning principles of education, i.e. the lessons being taught, and that she was just generally shy and withdrawn. Her math teacher says essentially the same thing. She was very quiet in class, had to be reminded often to pay attention, and she was known to lose focus. She is normally very reserved and receptive, but however, receptive to redirection. In the week prior to going missing, Maddie appeared to be more easily agitated, retorting with negative attitudes when she would have to be corrected and redirected. So there may have been some flags a week before this, and it may go back to, the information that we saw early on in the other pages that she may have missed, her that time of the month for her, and that may have been a situation that may have come up in a conversation with that individual, Stearns. And that, as well as losing the job from his father, having a conversation with his victim, he may have just, that may have been a trigger. Both of those could have been triggering events. It's possible. In the past, she had expressed that she was upset and asked on various occasions to go see a school counselor. However, she never revealed what she was upset about. And then on page 876, the PD says, those cases or those conversations were not lining up with what mom and dad were saying, i.e., stepdad. This is another incident report. I don't know where this one is. I don't know why it's in here, but it's got some names. I'm not going to go through them. But there was articles of clothing that were collected that may have belonged to Maddie, and also, Stephen Stearns, general investigation. He was a victim of something. In the reporting party. It's not telling us what he was a victim of. But here's a narrative. Let's see what we got here. Missing juvenile. These are just general incident reports. Let's see here. This is her math books that were recovered. 2 of them. And, a lot of times, as victims of SA will write in those books. You'll be surprised what you can find. This is a piece of clothing that they collected. They were canvassing the area, and they found that clothing. Let's see here. Yeah, white T-shirt found on the ground. This is also really cool. I also collected multiple footage from a stealth camera in the area. The footage shows multiple 10-second footage of random people walking and deers activating the camera. So this was a trail cam, and it tells you what time it was going off. So they collected a trail cam, which is cool. And here's the affiant. This is the affidavit for the search warrant. And they're going to get into phones. That's what this is. And this is, once they get this search warrant, they can plug it into what they call a UFED. And that from Celebrite, which is a program. And that UFED will give you a software dump of everything on that phone. And here the judge signed it. Says, yep, go get them, Tiger. And they executed that search warrant, and here's the return. And they've left that off of what was recovered, and that's where these documents end. Okay, so let me go up here. And thank you, June. You're so kind. So grateful. Okay, any thoughts? What's your opinion? What's going on here? What are you hearing, seeing, thinking? Let's see here. Yeah, that's a good point. New York City baby boomer. The charges don't indicate termination of a fetus, but because she was a minor, that information can't be shared, but will be revealed during a trial. Thank you for that comment. Let's see here, Dr. G, you're weighing in. I wonder if the girl began talking to a counselor and the suspect became worried. Good point. And you know what? Isn't it exciting to see this name, Miss Sophia? Okay, I'm going through here. Let's see here. I've never blamed a school. I've seen my sister get away with awful things raising her girls. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Let's see here. Here's a theory. Noel says, my theory is he realized she wasn't waking up this time, hit her in the trunk, made it seem like he was getting her ready for school. She was unconscious in the trunk, but then strangled her in the woods. That is a great point, Noel, but I think they have him driving with her deceased in his car. And I think that, is going to be a problem. You know what, Valerie, this is a great point too. It is probable there is no trial. I hope so. I hope there's no trial for Maddie, and I hope there's no trial for Marin. I hope there is no trial. And now this little 12-year-old down in Houston, and thank you so much, Daisy. I know it is a tremendous amount to digest for all of us, isn't it? Let's see here, Gary. When a child starts to show very sudden changes in mood and learning ability, it is good for a professional to probe for trauma. And if any of you are in the New York City area, that is one professional that knows how to do it in Manhattan. Remember, he has a private practice of counseling as well. So he's not only the author of The New Evil, he's an amazing human being. So I hope, again, this is let's see here. Purple Turtle, I worked in a school. If I saw a child having a tough day, I would say privately, you look like you're having a tough day, and it would all spill out. Kids just want to be heard. That's all. Great, great advice. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, there is he put her in the trunk video. Thank you, Consuela. Medina. I love that name. Let's see here. Thank you, Shirley. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Is this the worst case you've seen? Oh, no. No, unfortunately, it's not. It is not. There are some that stay with you, and I have a bookshelf of them, unfortunately. Let's see here. They haven't put him in the trunk. Yep, I got that. Yeah, thank you again, Latina. You're so kind, so grateful. Yeah, we should all be mandatory reporters for kid, not those that required by professions. Yeah, and I think I think and this is just my opinion. I mean, I think our society right now, I think people sometimes we walk on eggshells, right? It's like, do I say something? Do I not say something? But at the same time, remember, for an abused girl, if you see her make this signal, tuck the thumb and then tuck over like that, this means I need help. Okay? Means I need help. Respond to that. Pick up the phone, call 911, give that license plate. If that young lady is in that car, follow that car until they make contact with that vehicle. These are the kind of, just little things behind the curtain, right? Teach your children when, let's say, they're walking on the street, and let's say they're going northbound, and a car's coming up behind them, and they go parallel with your child or your grandson or granddaughter or whoever. Teach your child to run the opposite direction of where that car is facing. And as they run, try to look back and get the license plate. If they can, every kid today is carrying a phone. Snap a picture of the car. Try to get a picture when you're, as you get past the car. Teach your child never to get into a car. Never get into a car, even if a guy pulls a gun. Okay? Even if a guy pulls a gun. Okay? Now, why do I say that? Because statistically, once a child is in a car, and again, we're talking, understanding the ages of and the maturity levels of your children, 4 or 5-year-olds, trying to teach them that, forget it, right? They have an attention span of less than 4 minutes, right? You get a minute for every year of attention span. But children that are 7, 8, 9, 10, etc., and they walk to the bus stop or something to that effect, teach them to run the opposite direction of the car, because statistically, if somebody had a gun, and let's say they're pointing it at the victim, and this goes for women too, by the way. I told Karen and our family a long time ago, even if that person pulls a gun on you, run the opposite direction. And here's the reason why. If they're in the car, 2 things have to happen. Number one, they have to get out of the car and take aim. But if you're running, it's a lot harder to hit a moving target than a stationary target, number one. Number two, if they remain in the car and they turn, they have to shoot either through a window that it goes like this, okay? And if a round is going to go like that, there's a high probability that round will ricochet, and or once it penetrates the glass, it'll be going in a different direction and it will miss. Okay? The odds of you surviving are way up here if you run the opposite direction, even with the gun. Okay? And so make sure your kids understand that. The second thing, if a car pulls up and says, hey, your mom sent me here to pick you up, okay, then you create a secret code or password with your child. What do I mean by that? If you say to your child, hey, Mrs. Jones is going to pick you up today. Okay, mom. And you know her, you've met her. Yeah, mom. Okay. Well, we've talked. Okay. And the password today is going to be red balloons. So now Mrs. Jones comes to school, your girlfriend comes to school, or let's just play. The girlfriend says to her husband, hey, I was supposed to pick up Judy's daughter at school. Can you go do it? And he goes, yeah, sure, whatever. And you don't know who this guy is, right? Nobody does, right? And he pulls up, and your daughter or son is standing at the corner or at the curb, and he or she says, Mr. Jones now says, hey, your mom sent me to pick you up. First question, what's the password? If this guy goes, what? Never get in that. Don't take a ride. Nope. Zippo, zero, nada, zilch, nothing. Don't even get near that car. Okay. Because you don't know. Okay. Get on the phone, text your mom. Hey, somebody's here, says Mr. Jones. I've never seen him before, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't know the password. Every mother on this earth and every grandmother on this earth should say, okay, I'm on my way. Good deal. Okay. Because the Sterns of the world are hoping that the kid just gets in the car. Okay. Another is the buddy system in bathrooms. Okay. Years ago, as some of you may or may not know, but I was the case agent with Matthew Checky. He was the little boy in Southern California that was killed inside the restroom at the Oceanside Harbor in Southern California. Okay, his death resulted in family restrooms around the world, around malls, everything. It was called the Matthew Checky Act, and that put into motion family restrooms. Okay. Those dynamics have changed today. They've changed. Okay. Number one, escort your child into the restroom. If a guy's in there and he says, "Hey, what are you doing?" You say, "None of your business. I'm in here with my child." And if the child is at a point, and number two, use those family restrooms versus individual restrooms. Use the family restroom, go in, lock the door, stand there with your child, face the wall, let them do their business. Okay. If you don't have that ability to do that, teach your child how to whistle. And you stand into the door of that restroom. If our society is going to open it up for these guys, then you know what? Let's take advantage of it. Just stand in the door, inside the restroom, not at the doorwell, because that's where Matthew's aunt stood, and Brandon Wilson was already in the bathroom, killing her nephew. And had she gone another 1.5 feet, 2 feet, it probably would have been a different story. So in today's world, just do it. Do whatever you want. If you're a college girl or something to that effect, go with your girlfriend into the bath. Go in, 4 or 5 of you go to the bathroom together. Okay. Don't go by yourself. I tell my wife, even today, when we go to dinner with somebody, and her friend, if she looks at when she talks to me, she says, "I'm going to the bathroom," she knows automatically, because she's very conscious of protecting herself, and she's very aware. In Hawaii, they call that akamai, being alert to your surroundings, and just go in together, all of you. That's a very good place, because the buddy system has been proven to work. And it's the same thing with children. If your child needs to go to the restroom, take your girlfriend with their child, and the 4 or 5 of you all go in there together, okay, and let them do their thing. Okay? Because the dynamics have changed drastically in today's world. Okay. Or find a single bathroom. That's exactly right, KJ. That's a good point. Okay. Good point. All right. Well, there's going to be a lot more where that came from. Do not miss. Oh, wait a minute. I see some things up here. Sorry. Thank you. Your buddy barking in the background. He's such a nut job. He's doing so well, though. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, everybody. Knowledge is power. That's exactly right, Mimi. I'm going to leave that one up. And we just want, again, Karen and I, thank you so very much for always being with us and trusting us here on the interview room. If you're looking for a really great read for your young dancing family member, I highly recommend My Sweetheart's book. That said, remember to continue, to take care of one another. And if you need something, don't be afraid to reach out to your friend and say, "Hey, I need to talk," because it could be very important. We sure do appreciate each and every one of you. I'll be back next week with a couple of things throughout the week. So I look forward to seeing you. And again, thank you, Miss Sophia, for being back with us. God bless you. We're so grateful that you're here. And let's go to Hawaii. Aloha, everybody. Have a super great evening.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a